Good evening there, and welcome to our latest Elite FPL podcast, recapping on Gameweek 12. And I'm joined by my two good friends, Steve-O. Steve-O, how are you, mate?
Evening, Dan. This is going to be a bit of a different podcast, as we've already discussed. So, yeah, hello. Hi, Jason.
Good. And yes, we're joined again by Jason. Obviously, we did the Gameweek 12 reactionary podcast on Sunday, and Jason's back with us. So we're going to be looking at his decision to use the free hit chip on the weekend, recapping on that, and also looking at the movers and shakers in our mini league as well that we take very seriously. And as Steve-O alluded to as well, there's that word again. We're going to be talking about our mini league and explaining why we do this podcast, the history of our mini league, and what it's all about, why we've started doing this podcast, just to give you a bit more background if you've been watching before. And also, we've had a question come in regarding Claudio Ranieri taking over the reins at Fulham. So very interesting for Fulham fans and what impacts that will have on fantasy football going forward, the assets that they've got. So, yeah, I'll hand you over to Steve-O. Steve-O, we're going to be looking at the top four in our league, but mainly focusing on our good friend Jason's decision to free hit.
What I will add is that if anybody's in the live chat, hello, welcome. If you have any question, anything you want to ask us, please do, because this podcast, to be honest, is more about getting to know the three of us. And as Dan alluded to, why we do this podcast. So I'll get cracking on with it. So Jason is now 49 points clear of second in our cash mini league. And that's pretty much where the big gap stops, because between second and third, there's only 8 points. Between third and fourth, there is only 7 points. And between fourth and fifth, only 2 points. And Dan, all the way down in 11th, is 56 points off fourth. So, yeah, we'll just get straight into it, because we already covered the mini league stuff on Saturday. Unfortunately, I didn't get into the top four, which I thought I did. I missed out by 2 points. We want to talk to Jason about why you use the free hit chip when you're in such a good position. You were 328 in the world. You've taken a -8 hit. And if anybody watched the podcast on Sunday evening, you would have found out that even if Jason had not even taken an 8-point hit, he would have made 12 points anyway. So, Jason, tell us all about your free hit chip. Why did you take it in the end? I'm just assuming it's because you didn't want to do that -8 hit.
Yeah. I spent pretty much the whole of Friday with a constant battle, whether I'd made the right decision in my head that Sunday morning so early to make those transfers. Obviously, there was Richarlison news as well. There was rumours of Trent Alexander-Arnold not starting. And, Martial at City. I took note of what you said about you thought it was maybe a week too soon. I had all these things echoing around in my head, and I just figured that taking the -8 in the rank, the overall rank that I was at the time, could have ended up being pretty negative, ironically.
To interject, Jason, to let anybody know that doesn't have a clue what transfers Jason was going to do. So Jason was going to take out Mitrovic, David Silva and Cedric, and he was going to bring in Arnautovic, Martial and Trent Alexander-Arnold for a -8. However, with all the maths done and everything, as I already said, they both made 12 points. So, yeah, carry on, Jason.
Yeah, so I wanted to try and get the highest that anyone's been in the overall rankings, because I think at the time I was 20 points off the 100th place. So, and strangely, I'm actually 30 points away from 100th place, so I'm 10 points down on what I was last week. But I just figured that at the very least, even if I don't end the season well, it'd be nice to break into the possibility of being in the top 100. And kind of thought, there was a few differentials that I thought might have done better. I know that the second and third place captain Mane. But I doubled up on Mane and Salah. I figured that Fulham would literally fall apart. I did think about and consider Shaqiri for that weekend as well, ironically. It was like I went through a few of the decisions. I was thinking of bringing Lacazette in. I looked at Arsenal's defence. Thanks to Dan, he persuaded me not to double up on Arsenal defence. But it turned out not to be. Turned out not to make a difference anyway, because Balbuena didn't really do anything. And Harry Kane, he got the assist. I was thinking that he might have got maybe a brace. So yeah, all in all, without going on and on and on about it, it was a disaster. It completely fell on its head and failed, and one chip down and got the rest of the season now to hope that rivals don't take advantage of it. And
I think that I don't think it was a bad week to choose your free hit chip. I think there were favourable fixtures. You had teams like Liverpool playing Fulham, Chelsea at home to Everton, Arsenal at home to Wolves, the City United game. Okay, whatever we all may think of that, the way it ended was complete annihilation against United. I just think it was just. This is what fantasy football is all about, isn't it? It's when luck plays a hand, and my goodness, luck did not play a hand in your thing whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I've always said all along. But when you've said to me, like, Jason, you're 60 odd points clear of second place, you're this far up in the rankings, you must be loving it, and you must be walking on cloud 9 or whatever. But it's like one bad game week, and people just, your rank can plummet. I'm not saying my ranks plummet, but certainly people are catching up, and I've used a chip which I could have well not have used. So yeah, I'm disappointed, but there was sound reasoning for my decision, and I will. And if I was to do it, if I was to probably have another chance, I'd probably do it again. Because I don't like taking hits, and yeah, it's done now. So got to just get on with it.
Well, looking through my notes here over the past few game weeks, ironically, you're actually within our mini league actually getting further apart from second place. So it was only a couple of weeks ago that you were 35 points clear of second place. Now you're 49 points clear. And it's one of those where Dan asked, last week you were 66 points clear of second, so it's gone back down a bit. It's been closed a bit. But between second and fourth, there's barely a gap. So it just appears from my point of view anyway, that second to fifth, really, in our mini league, it's all being congested and we're all kind of choosing the same old players, and it's just coming down to our captain differential, whereas you're just, again, we keep saying it, just plodding along, doing well, but it's your own personal decisions which are affecting your overall rank. Now, Dan asked in the last podcast if maybe you're finding this particular season a bit too comfortable and that actually you're willing to take more risks. Would you agree with Dan or not?
That was going back to what I was saying about the decision to do it this week to try and push up the rankings, the overall rankings, and to claim that top 100 spot was a massive gamble. It was the first time since the season started that I've taken a gamble like that, and I was well aware of the risks. I mean, it could have been worse. It could have gone worse. The team that that I didn't play could have outscored my free hit team, and that would have been detrimental. More detrimental.
In fact, I did the maths last week.
Oh, is it? Okay, I thought it was level.
You're trying to make him feel better.
I thought it was level.
Seamo's like, no.
My understanding is based on the team the week before, you were actually minus 10 points. So actually, like I said, if you'd have stuck to the same team, you would have been on 59. I can't remember now what your total game week score was this week. But
48.
Yeah, when we did our live reactatory thing, podcast, you were minus 10 points overall on your free hit chip, just to rub salt in the wound there. Yeah, so it's it's not.
Oh well, there you go then.
So as it stands at the moment,
I obviously haven't done the research.
Oh yeah, this is what I'm here for, with the old notes and everything. But so we keep banging on about our mini league and what's so special about it and everything. And so as it stands at the moment, Jason is 1,407th in the world. I'm 52,127th. I'm slowly climbing back up. I was 7,000th, but whatever now, it doesn't matter. I'm back up to 52,000. Dan, as it stands, is 417,004. So, Dan, how are you feeling now we're at international break and everything? How are you feeling looking back at the weekend and your team and the hit taking?
Despondent is the word, actually. Tried to put a brave face on it in the last podcast, but as I said to you in previous weeks, I need to be getting above average scores each week to catch up on my rivals to get back into the contention for the top four. And it's happened the previous 2 game weeks, but it didn't happen this game week. And I can't, I don't know. I've still got my chips. Sorry to bring up chips again. It wasn't a disastrous game week. But as I said on Sunday, it was like I bought in Murray. I bought in Pereira away to Southampton. He's done well this season. Glenn Murray has got quite a lot of goals this season. Away to Cardiff, really good fixture. But then, Brighton had a man sent off. So that's going to have an effect on Murray's performance. Brighton's attacking play was all, lost its cohesion. And that was a big factor. But I'm happy with Murray for the next few games with the fixtures coming up. Pereira was more, when you do a transfer and you just think, I'm doing this, but my gut feeling is this isn't going to work out. Well, Murray, I was quite confident, but Pereira, I was a bit like, he didn't deliver against Newcastle, although he hit the crossbar, getting into the right positions. But yeah, I'm just, Mane is just really disappointed with the game against Fulham. Didn't really look like he was sort of going to get any sort of returns. And that was my main, all I was thinking on Saturday morning was, right, if Mane and Salah get the returns I expect, it's not going to be so bad because I was doubled up on the Man City defence as well, and now obviously United got the penalty and that counts without any clean sheet bonus. Mkhitaryan scored a late goal, so Doherty didn't get a clean sheet bonus, though I'm kind of glad because obviously I'm an Arsenal fan. But I don't know, I'm always trying to stay positive, but fantasy football can be bloody cruel. And all I could think, just to finish this off, all I could think was when I looked at my score in comparison to the other players in the mini league, I thought I've spent so much time. I've done 2 podcasts. I've read up, looked at it all, and I've still cocked it all up. So I'm just looking forward to watching a game of football without worrying about how many bonus points tomorrow, But I mean, Wayne Rooney's can't get any bonus points now, can he? Because he's not in the Premier League, but that's another story.
Which kind of links us into the history of let's be honest here, the Torbay Elite Mini League and the history behind it and why we take it so seriously. So we started this mini league on the Fantasy Football Premier League site in the 2011-2012 season. But prior to this, for anybody that's even interested, now, funny enough, thanks to the Fantasy Football Scout site, I bought the Wasting Your Wild Card book and it's basically a history into fantasy football. And I could relate with it a lot because it kind of reminded me of how I got into fantasy football. And I can't specifically remember the year, but I'm going to assume it was probably 2010, 2011, or 2009, 2010, somewhere around that era. And at my workplace, I decided to do my own fantasy football game where I would personally total up all the points, email the scores to everybody. There was about 15 people from my work colleagues that would play it. And then one day, one of my work colleagues actually came in and said, to save you time, why don't you do this through the official fantasy football game? And I was a bit dubious at the time because I really enjoyed totaling up scores and points and emailing.
Love your stats.
Yeah, all the stats, all the match reports, everything. And I found it really, really rewarding. And then we cottoned on to this. And yeah, so we started in 2011, 2012. And ever since then, we have been playing. It started at about, 20 players, Dan, originally started in there?
Yeah, the reason I was chuckling because you just brought back a memory when we started this league. Obviously, I think you invited me to join the league, and I went out on the Friday night before the season started in Bournemouth and completely forgot about the deadline the next day and just woke up with a terrible hangover. And then I thought, hold on a minute, football season starts today. Fantasy football. I've just paid Steve a tenner, and it also picked my team, and it picks the worst players ever. Never leave your team to the last minute, and don't go out on a Friday night before the season starts. So there's a lesson for you all, young people.
Yeah, and it was a cash mini league. It was £10 entry, and when we first did it, I think it was literally like the top 3 places. Maybe, I mean, you may be able to help me out here, Dan, but it was definitely just as simple as the top 3-4 places. Maybe even just the winner takes all. Can you remember, Dan, at all?
I think because Pete was the one that originally, well, yourself and Pete originally organised, and I took over in latter years. So for those watching, I organise the league and all the admin side of it as well. But I'm pretty sure it was the top 3 or top 4 that got prizes, because now we do prizes for manager of the month, highest score, and it keeps people interested in the league, and highest game week score throughout the whole season. We do a prize for the cup as well, which is coming up soon. I'm looking forward to the cup because I ain't winning the league, so go for the cup instead. But so we do a variety of prizes. But yeah, I think it was top 4 or top 3 for cash prizes.
Yeah, and we expanded the prizes because we just got more and more people basically involved. And up to this year, it's our biggest mini league so far of 54 people, I believe it is, that participates. There's a lot of cash up for grabs. And when we start, so in 2011, 2012, like I said, I've just done some most basic research into what happened in these years and everything. I've also gone through myself, Dan, and Jason's worst seasons. If it brings back a memory, it brings back a memory. And we'll go on to the reasons why we do the podcast. But when we started when we officially started all playing 2011, 2012, it was Manchester City that won the league, and it was the QPR game, the Aguero famous goal that won it. That was the year that we started. It was United second, Arsenal third, and Chelsea, they got into the Champions League, if you remember. When doing this research, I was like, oh yeah, because they won the Champions League. They got that 4th spot ahead of Tottenham because they'd won the Champions League. Was it under I keep forgetting his name, Roberto Martinez?
No. It was Di Matteo. I think I think actually, to correct you on that, I think Chelsea finished. Did Chelsea finish 5th? And then
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I mean. So they got
I was loving it. I was loving it because that was the one time I supported Chelsea in one game. So
and so Tottenham ended up 5th. And if you remember, this was the year that it was Newcastle that came 6th, and it was the year of Demba Ba and Cisse, if you remember. When they yes. And God, Liverpool ending up 7th, which Fast forward a few years later, it was what Burnley, my team, took over. That year, relegated was. I mean, when you look at it, you're like, bloody hell, they were in the Premier League, but of course they were. This is history. So relegated was Blackburn, Bolton, and Wolves of all the players.
Blimey,
and
yeah.
the top scorer that season was Robin van Persie with 30 goals, and Joe Hart had the most clean sheet of 17. So that's when we all started. Now, I've looked at my best rank, which was, funny enough, the following year, which was the 2012-2013 season. I ended up 4,209th. And by pure coincidence, it was also Jason's best rank. However, not quite up to the heights of what I've got there. Certainly not on the heights of what... and Jason will be able to expand on his Fantasy League history in a minute when I reveal this. So Jason's best rank to date ever was in the 2012-13. He was 234,712. So we haven't even gone through the worst yet, but we'll get. So yeah, Jason, do you have any memories, anything to do with why you play fantasy football? What got you involved? I'm assuming it's just through our mutual friend Pete Smith.
Yeah, I was living with. Was I living with Pete? I think I was. I was living with Pete at the time, and he actually he asked me what my email address was, and I said why, and he said, "I'm signing you up to this fantasy football." I'm like, "Well, what's that all about?" I didn't have a clue what it was. I said, "Yeah, my email." I told him my email address. He put in the password, and then he set a team. Well, he pretty much just put a basic team in. He said, "Right, I've put a basic team in. Have a look at it. If you don't like it, switch it around." And yeah, I mean, that was like in the first. Yeah, I think the first 11 and 12. I think it was. I don't think I got many points that season. I think it was towards the end, or I can't remember. My memory is lacking, but that one I pretty much finished pretty low. I think 2.76 million. But anyway, that aside, that's where it kind of was introduced to me. After that, year in, year out, I just took it as a little bit of a joke, like a bit of fun, but not serious in any way, shape, or form. Like I remember one year I was excited because Nick Powell scored for Man United, and I was saying, "This is it. He's going to be the next Roy Keane. You know, he's for United. You know, he's going to score 15 goals plus a season." Brought him in. No one else brought him in. Of course they didn't. But like I was literally like knee jerk, the definition of a knee jerk. If a player scored, bring him in. If it was like someone like really like obscure, like no one would ever think of, like not even like maybe like a reserve player that was given one game and managed to get a goal. Like, but yeah, looking back now, I mean, it's changed now over the years, but I was very casual back in the early days. Yeah.
Yeah, so during our best rank, so the 2012-2013 season, Man United had won the league, Man City second, Chelsea third, Arsenal fourth, Tottenham fifth, Swansea were sixth, and Wigan, they got the seventh Europa League spot. And here's a question for you, Dan. Why did Wigan get that seventh spot?
Because they won the FA Cup and they beat Man City 1-0. And because I watched the game, because Phil Jewell, who's in our mini league, is a massive Wigan fan. We went up to watch Wigan play Arsenal. I think it was 2011, 2012. So Ben Watson scored the winner.
Yeah. They were, of course, relegated along with Reading and QPR. Robin van Persie, top scorer with 26 goals, and Joe Hart, 18 goals.
Can we not mention Robin van Persie again in this podcast? I'm sick of it. Still makes me sick thinking about that.
So when we look at this is the funny thing. So Dan's best rank coincided with Jason's worst rank. So Dan's best rank was in 2016-2017, where Dan, now this, for anybody that's watching, may get an idea of the kind of players that we are or whatever opinions you may have. So in 2016-2017, Dan's best rank was 259,336. Jason's worst ever rank, 2,786,846. Not very. I believe that was the Leicester City. Was that right? The Leicester City title winner?
Yeah.
Yeah, that season was. Yeah, that's the season that Wenger bought Czech in the summer. And then in the January transfer window, we've got El Neni. So that's a happy memory.
Well, during that season, Chelsea won the league. Tottenham came second. Oh, sorry. My apologies. Yes, it was actually Chelsea that won the league.
That season?
Oh, it's 15-16 Leicester.
Was it 15-16?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah. No, you're right. Jason's right. Yeah, 2016. Yeah.
Wow, time flies. So yeah, Chelsea
that was when
won the league.
Conte took over, and that was when I remember writing because I used to write, for those that are interested, I used to write the match reports in our Facebook group. I used to do a match report every week, and I always used to bang on about Fabregas and Costa, and that was the season they were racking up the points. Those two were just lethal in that season. That was when Conte took over, and that was, yeah, Fabregas, Chelsea legend.
So yeah,
bringing back a lot of bad memories. It's
just in there. Yeah, Tottenham comes Man City third, Liverpool fourth, and United. They got a Champions League spot because why? Jason, as a United fan, can you remember why you got a Champions League spot despite coming fifth?
Because they won the Euro, but
yeah,
against Ajax.
They won the league, yeah. Arsenal, Dan's team, came sixth. Everton seventh. Relegated were Hull, Middlesbrough, and Sunderland. So all the northeast teams up there. Wasn't Robin van Persie now the top goal scorer? It was Harry Kane. He got 29 goals, and Courtois for Chelsea got 16. So, and this is it now. We've covered basically your worst and best stars. Ironically, my worst year coincided with me actually winning our mini league, which kind of says a lot about the standard of the league last year. But it was last year, and my overall rank was 178,828. And just a quick cap of last year. So City won the title, United second, Tottenham third, Liverpool fourth, Chelsea fifth, Arsenal sixth, and my boys Burnley seventh. Swansea, Stoke, West Brom relegated. Salah with his 32 goals, and David De Gea with 18. And of course, Dan, it's a bit like This Is Your Life, isn't it, with my classical? But it kind of nicely links into why we started doing the podcast. And correct me if I'm wrong, it was last year we first did a podcast exclusively for our Facebook group. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. If you remember the year before that, we actually met up in the pub and talked about other business stuff and also like the league. And we were just talking about how we can make the league more interactive, make the league better. And we mentioned about it, but we didn't really take it forward at the time. And then I think a year on, you mentioned it, and I was just like, yeah, I'm up for that. And we just started to do it, really. And it got a good reception. And yeah.
Yeah, because funny enough, it was because of you that I decided to do it. Because I saw your posts on Instagram and Facebook for your business. And we'll get a quick plug in there. Social media assistant, Dan Bull. There's a quick plug for anybody for their social media needs. So Dan would do his own videos. Instructive videos about how to do various things on the internet. Is that right, on social media?
Yeah, just simple guidance on social media marketing, how to use apps, just general marketing advice for a small business owner that's never used social media before and wants to take the first steps to use it. And I need to do more of them, actually. Spending more time talking about fantasy football instead of work.
They would be only a minute long, and I was just like, do you know what? Dan's really good at hosting. He's got something about the camera that just likes him, and
Not everyone says that.
I'm a massive podcast listener. I listen to various podcasts revolving around wrestling, fantasy football, football in general, and all this malarkey. And I just thought, you know what? Let's just, as Dan said, make our Facebook group more interactive. And we just decided to do podcasts, video podcasts on our phones. And we did it in your bedroom, didn't we, Dan?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. It was, like I said, when we initially started doing them, we obviously were both in the same room doing it, filming it on my phone, which is obviously better quality than my laptop. And yeah, just had a good reception. Just enjoy. I mean, to add on to it, obviously Jay and Steve are let's be honest, the hardcore FPL players. Whereas I'll always be honest, watching football, playing football is more my passion. But I'm taking FPL more seriously these last few seasons. And I'm sure a lot of FPL players can relate to this. I used to love playing the game Championship Manager 0102. I know Jay did as well. I know Pete Smith is a massive fan of that. I know Ben Edwards, who was in our league last season from Birmingham, still plays it to this day. So there was a kind of a thing about that. That's kind of what interested me with fantasy football and the whole idea of making your own team and bringing in the transfers. But you could argue I still don't have a clue. I'm just a bang average player. But when I first started playing it, I do remember going to the pub, watching the Man United Wigan game with a few friends and talking about the league. Cy Bellamy was there, and the players that I was just picking like defensive, like Lucas from Liverpool, and like just defensive players. I was like, yeah, just trying to defend my team. I was like, yeah, but they're good players. They're good. Like, you don't understand fantasy football whatsoever. It's like that whole thing of Luka Modric is a world-class player, top-class player, absolute baller, you know, got Croatia to the World Cup final, plays for Real Madrid, etc., etc. But as you said, you know, his pass will lead to an assist that goes to, you know, whoever else. It's not necessarily, there's all the build-up play. So I just didn't have a clue about it at the start. And my own fantasy career, my average finish is always 11th or 12th. So I'm not terrible. Our league has grown, you know, as to say 40, 50 people. It's not just people from Torbay as well. We've got people from obviously your workplace, and we've got people from Tamworth as well. We'll have other people across the country, but predominantly Torbay. We've had a lot of people comment saying about joining our mini league. I've noticed of recent videos. So all I can say is obviously subscribe to our channel, stay tuned, and next season come into our league and up the ante a bit more. Be really interesting.
Yeah, I just wanted to interject. We've got Delvin in chat, and he would just like to ask your opinions. Mendy or Robertson, if you could pick one, who going forward and why? I'll start it off, and I'll say that I would probably go with Robertson because I've seen recent performances of Mendy, and he's been a bit of a mixed bag for me. He's been very poor defensively, and I think that Pep, you know, has got a very short fuse in terms of patience for players like Mendy, and but you know, could be wrong. But I would personally go over Robertson. Yeah,
I mean, I've got Mendy based on the fact that he was sort of at the start of the season playing an advanced forward role, a very attacking fullback, and I've kind of gone with that. And the fixtures for City look good coming up. But as you said, Robinson, his performances, particularly against Fulham, I've got Mendy, but I'd probably pick Robertson if you've got the funds to allow for that. So
yeah, I've got Mendy too.
I don't own, mate.
I don't own Robertson.
It's all about the premium fullbacks this season, isn't it? Really, I've always loved my cheap defenders, but this season I've kind of learnt the hard way that you need Alonso, Robinson, Mendy. It seems to be a big factor because some of the elite so-called, well, excuse the pun, but the elite forwards, the premium forwards, i.e. Kane, Lukaku, traditionally been strong, haven't delivered, so we've had to rely on performances from the wing backs.
Can we just not talk about Lukaku?
needs to move to Arsenal to resurrect his career.
It's funny you mentioned elite because, simply put, it kind of links us into why we now do a YouTube thing. So me and Dan, to cut a long story short, we were doing our podcast and we just thought, you know what? Let's just see what it'd be like putting it on YouTube. But me and Dan aren't tech experts or anything. And Jason this year decided he wanted to be part of this, and he was finally doing up logos and video packages. Our introduction, absolute superb video quality and everything. We thought, why don't we have Jason as a guest? And since then, it's just taken off. I'm genuinely shocked at the response that we've had to the podcast on YouTube. I'm amazed that I honestly thought when we were going to do this, we would get about 20 views and that would be it. And it would just serve our purpose we'd stick it on our Facebook private group and have it on YouTube just to see where it'd take us. But it's just exploded and it's got to the stage now where we're happily doing live stream. I mean, how do you feel about this, Jason? The fact that you're now part of that's because they're growing. Can you hear us, Jason? All right. At the moment, he seems to have vanished. So, can you hear me, Dan?
I can hear you, mate, loud and clear. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what's. Yeah. Just to carry. Oh, you're back. It's back in the room.
Yeah,
back in the room.
Sorry about that. Yes. So you're asking me how I feel about being a part of the podcast. Yeah, it's awesome, and everyone tuning in. I noticed I've got a few more viewers. Hi, everybody. Yeah, it's exciting. It's an interesting topic where there's so many different points of view, different opinions, interaction opportunities with members of the community. Yeah, it's really good. And like we just chill out one or two evenings of the week. And we just talk about something we all share in common. And then for the remaining days of the week, we get on with our everyday lives. So, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I certainly think I'm hoping that these videos again, if anybody has any questions live right now for us, please just ask away. But Dan used a really good analogy for what we're doing, which is we're hoping that we're relatable. The kind of heartache and joys that three everyday blokes that play fantasy football go through when they take the game really, really seriously. And we just hope that it comes across that way, how seriously we genuinely take this game and how well we want to do regarding our mini league. I mean, Dan has certainly come up with various anecdotes about how he been in pubs or whatever, explaining why he takes certain players so seriously and how and stuff.
You remind me again. Sorry, I have to interject. You remind me last Christmas, going back to Bournemouth. I mentioned Bournemouth again, my hometown team. Being in the pub, not knowing the scores, looking up at the bar. Oh, match of the day's on. Oh, great, yeah. Oh, who scored? Who scored for Palace? Benteke. I was like, I want to swear, but I'm not going to because I'm polite. But I've had Benteke in for 4 weeks. He's been crap. And then he comes along, scores a goal against Leicester and tries to spoil my Christmas weekend away. But I think that's the impact and effect it has on you. I mean, even it sounds mad saying this because I'm such a fan, but even watching Wolves Arsenal on the weekend, I was like, in my head, I had this evil thing going. I was like, well, if we lose, I get points to Doherty, but I don't want us to lose. It's always going to be, and I will say it's always going to be the case that, I would not, at the expense of Arsenal winning, want. I mean, when Pete Smith got me into it and he was like, we were watching Everton Arsenal and he was not cheering when Fabregas scored, but he was like pumping his fist. I was looking at him as if he was a lunatic and I was like, but it's like they're like, he's celebrating more than me. And I'm like, Pete, have you got anything to tell me? And he was like, well, yeah, but and he explained it perfectly logically that, if Arsenal do score, I want Fabregas to score because he's in my team. I don't want Arsenal to win, but if they do score, then I want it to be that player. And I was like, oh, okay. I kind of understand it now, but it was a bit weird at first. So
I have to say, from my point of view, it has kind of. I'll be honest, it's ruined my football experience. Like, I'm not saying for 1 minute I'm I've got the knowledge of Dan, who's got the brain of Britain when it comes to football. But I just predominantly follow Burnley. But it's got to the stage now where I take fantasy football more seriously than I do my own team. Yes, I care about Burnley a lot. I will talk all day on them if I have to. But there's more chance of me naming stating the bloody obvious, but the Manchester United starting lineup than my own team, because I just have no interest from a fantasy perspective of Burnley. Why do I need Charlie Taylor's playing ahead of Stephen Ward?
Although you did last season. You did last season. They did me favours. They did me some good, returns last season.
But that's the thing. But that's another thing, though, because I was a Burnley fan, I really didn't invest in my own team apart from Tom Heaton at the time, because I had no faith, because as a Burnley fan, it's ingrained in my genetics that we're the most pessimistic, negative team on the planet, and we are going to do nothing. And yet last year, when we achieved such a high level, I couldn't even put that faith into a fantasy team other than into Tom Heaton. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that I look at my team, just take the example the other day where West Ham beat us 4-2. It's one of those where I thought that we'd lose anyway, and it's just a case of, okay, let's just score the goal. And you see it's Arnautovic, and you're just like, there's like a bit of a deep down smile where you're like, I've got him on my team, but I'd rather him being sent off 1-0. You know what I mean? That's how
It's a crazy game. It's a crazy game. I mean, it's funny you say about it. I think doing these podcasts has heightened I've always been interested in FPL. I used to listen to podcasts. I never quite took it to the level of seriousness that you two have, but I've kind of, with doing these podcasts, it's made me look at fantasy football more and look at football in a different way. And I actually appreciate players that I didn't care about before, and that's what's happened over the last few years. So let's take a few examples, like Pascal Gross, Brighton last season. I was reading up about him, Sky Sports, most assists in the Bundesliga, and I was like, who is this guy? They signed him for 3 million. He got the most assists in the Bundesliga, and he's at Brighton. No disrespect, and he did fantastic. And I brought him in, and then he got returns. And that, for me, it's almost like being a scout, and that is the most satisfying thing with being a fantasy manager, when you pick in a player that's quite obscure, like Jay said, quite obscure, don't really know him, not got the reputation, and it pays off, the ultimate differential. And that, for me, is the most... I mean, Mahrez was another one. So the season before Leicester won the league, they were in the relegation battle, but he was playing some amazing football, but just not getting the returns. He was getting in the right positions. I remember one time against Villa, he did this drag back and took out 3 Villa players in one move. And I was like, wow, who is this guy? And then brought him in early the following season. He got me loads of good scores. And that's the main, satisfaction from being a fantasy manager. So I have won one mini league, I might add, but might not win many mini leagues, but you do get your satisfaction from those returns.
So Jason, do you think that, I mean, looking at your overall rank history that I did, let's be blunt about things here. You've done overall rank-wise horrifically. This year, however, we're talking your average position, give or take, is about 1 million in the world. This season, like we said, you're 1,400th. You've been as high as 328. Do you think that this could sound quite patronising, please correct me if I'm wrong. Do you think that because you're doing these podcasts, that you have to take the game a bit more seriously, or have you always done this? Is this just some freak occurrence which has made you come out the woodwork and do so well? What do you think has taken you from 1 million average to top 500? What's going on?
For whatever reason, I spent more time planning my team this season. Like no other season before have I considered the long term and not jumped on specific bandwagons that aren't going to go anywhere. I mean, the only one that I can honestly say I did for 1 week before this nightmare of a free hit was Harry Kane. But yeah, that happened. And obviously, game week 1, over 100 points. Game week 2, over 100 points. Those 2 weeks catapulted me up into the rankings and pretty much cemented me top of the mini league. Since then, I've not had to think too hard about changes in my team, and maybe make one transfer, not take any hits. So yeah, it's been quite an easygoing sort of thought process this year, as opposed to last year where I had like lots of like compulsive, impatient moves. Where this weekend that's just gone was like almost a look back into my previous seasons in fantasy, where I've been like almost a panic, thinking I've made a mistake here, I need to rectify it, blah 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 blah. So it kind of took me back into last season's sort of ethos, and look what happened. I mean, I spoke to Pete Smith, and he said, you've been doing everything right so far. You've been trusting your gut feeling. You could easily do well with a free hit, but it can easily go wrong. Do what you feel. He actually said, do what you feel is the right thing. Yeah. Now, my initial gut was to take that -8 and to bring those players in. And then I think the main problem was I had like 6 days of just constant thinking, and you can overthink this game way too much. Second guess yourself and try and convince yourself that you've made a mistake where you haven't. And I think that was a great lesson for me this weekend. It could have gone a lot worse. It wasn't great, but it could have gone a lot worse. And I think it was a bit of a wake-up call to kind of think, hang on a minute, just chill out again. So that's why I've decided like to just completely like not almost switch off from fantasy for this week, and just concentrate on life, not get stressed out about decisions, because it all leads to a dark road when you start to you're going to bed and you're not able to sleep because your mind is racing over, should I have transferred out David Silva and got Man United? And that literally was going through my head. Like, David Silva has been playing absolutely sublime. And, will Trent Alexander-Arnold play? He got subbed off at half-time midweek. Is Klopp unhappy with him? Oh, I better get him out. But it's like, there's all these things that are going through your mind, and it's just these doubts that play on you, and they like a snowball. And I tried to ring Dan on the weekend, and he was busy. And then I spoke to Pete, and Pete was getting annoyed at me. I was ringing Pete, going, Pete, what should I do? I've done a free hit. Oh no, this is before a free hit. I was like, what should I do? I've done a -8. It could, I'm happy with the players I brought in, but what, the more I think about it, I think it could go wrong for me. It was like, I was my own worst enemy in the decision making. And like I said, without going around like a broken record, it was a reality check.
But ironically, to kind of take you back, do you though find that actually you're in a worse position? Because like I said, if you'd have taken the -8 hit, it would have had no bearing on your points at all. It would have been exactly the same. You still would have been 10 points up. Plus, you wouldn't have Mitrovic, Cedric, and Silva in your team anymore. You would have had Arnautovic, Martial, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Who would you rather have, as it stands right now? The 3 I've just mentioned, or the 3 that you were going to transfer out, but you've still got? Because I know who I have.
I tell you what, if you'd have asked me that 24 hours ago, I would have definitely said the former. Now, going back with Mitrovic, let's not forget early season he was scoring goals, and everyone was like, anyone that knew anything about fantasy was praising him, saying he's an absolute bargain. He's playing in an attacking Fulham team, and let's not forget that. Okay, we put the defensive frailties aside. You've got absolute sublime footballers playing in Fulham. You've got Vieto, who is a talented football player. You've got Seri. You've got Schürrle. I mean, they weren't performing, but now under Ranieri, it would not surprise me if they turned up, and put in a great performance for their new manager.
And the next match is Southampton.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think Martial is a great bargain. And in fact, somebody said in chat, Dylan said in chat, going ahead, he was asking about Martial or David Silva going ahead. And I think both are great options. Martial was an absolute bargain at his price, 7.5. And I can see him performing well. But David Silva at the moment with De Bruyne out, he is the fulcrum of an attacking City team. And he's also storming into the box and getting involved in goal.
Yeah, I mean, City, they always seem to, like you said it's interesting what you said, because a lot of their goals this season, it seems to be like David Silva or Sterling just running into the box on the end of something at the far post, at the near post. Those little, a lot of their goals are like that.
It's funny you say that though, because I actually looked at literally the returns of David Silva, and actually they're not that great. He's got 3 goals and 4 assists this season. My understanding is it may be an assist, maybe 5 assists, but actually, I'll tell you what I'd take Martial. He is on absolute fire at the moment, and he's actually 7.6, Jason, funny, and by the end of this international game week, he's going to be 7.8, 7.9, and I'm absolutely... I'm happy with McCool at the moment, and we're not going to talk about the next game week at all, but I'm really, really wanting him in. And I was considering looking today at doing a -4 to get him in. But as it stands, I'm kind of quite happy with my team. But I think Martial is a must-have. I think that let's be honest here, both Martial and David Silva are both differentials, although I believe Martial's 12% ownership now. But I think for a form player, and that's what fantasy football is about. It's not about how well they're playing. Fantasy football is all about how much attacking returns they are getting us. Martial is the one to be having.
United's fixtures are changing as well.
Just want to say, there's got a few comments in chat. Richard, hi Richard, welcome to the stream. I got rid of Mane from Martial to avoid price rises. Now he gets a yellow sign. Did I make a mistake? Steve-O says no.
He's a fake. It's a fake injuries. Sigurdsson, he pulled out of the Iceland squad as an example. Mende, I think Mende is of all the yellow flags. I think Maddison for definite. He's definitely one that's for real. And Mende, I heard, is potentially a genuine injury, so he could be one to watch. But it's funny you say about Fulham, because Cy Bellamy, one of our regular contributors to this podcast, he did actually ask about Fulham under Ranieri and are there assets worth reinvesting in. So let's be honest here, we're looking at Mitrovic, possibly Schürrle, Seri, or Vieto. Now, the most basic research that I've seen, I don't know what, ironically, I didn't actually look at their upcoming fixtures, but there is a pattern which suggests that Ranieri in his first 10 games, he usually wins 5 or 6 of them. So what he normally does is, for every club that he's actually started with or come in for another manager, simply put, what he does is he just sets up a defensive wall and then hits anybody on the counter-attack. And apparently in the last few teams, several teams that he's been in charge of, he has basically won the first 5 or 6 fixtures. I mean, Dan may be able to tell us more, I don't know. But last season when he was at Nantes, he performed a bit like with Leicester. According to Philippe Clare, if anybody knows who that is, he made the point that actually what he was doing with Nantes at the time was actually a better achievement than what he did with Leicester, would you believe? And he did, I don't know where Nantes ended up at the end, so it may be worth looking at. But in answer to Sai's question, I think that certainly Mitrovic is worth re-monitoring again. Now, Jason's obviously still got him. Dan, did you get rid of him in the end through your arranged?
Yeah, that wasn't the raid. Pereira was the raid transfer. Glenn Murray was more considered. It was decided during the week during our podcast, and with the fixtures that Brighton have got coming up, the limited test for Mitrovic was that game away to Huddersfield. Jay had the pain of that as well. He blanked. Game up against Liverpool. I just getting frustrated. Obviously, blanked against Bournemouth. Well, I suppose we could have predicted there'd be a new manager, but could come back to bite us on the proverbial. But I think, yeah, I mean, in answer to Sai's question, I think Ranieri will do a good job at Fulham. Fulham have got, I mean, their chairman was saying at the end of the day, the players they've got, the position they're in, it's false. They should be much higher. But for me, as we've said before, Fulham's defensive problems are, numerous. The defending is atrocious. I'm so glad. It's almost horrible saying this. I'm so glad Callum James isn't at Arsenal at the moment from watching him play for Fulham. And I don't like saying that. But, yeah, it's the defense. It's not going to be, what I'm trying to say, it's not going to be easy for Ranieri to suddenly come along and change everything. I think he's going to be looking at the January transfer window to reinvest in their defence. But having said all that, new manager, new impact, Schürrle could be an interesting one.
But going on to what you say, kind of like from a real-life political football point of view, I cannot stand it when chairmen or footballers or experts or whatever say they've got the players, they're in a false position. No, you're in that position because your players aren't performing. That's as simple as it gets.
Yeah, it's an imbalanced team. I mean, they've got, like I said, Seri, who was tracked by us, tracked by Barcelona. I wouldn't be considering Seri particularly for fantasy. I think he's a bit more deep-lying, although he can attack a bit, but deep-lying playmaker, as they call it. But yeah, Schürrle, Mitrovic, Vito, maybe as a differential. But yeah, it's good to see Ranieri back in the Premier League. He's a very likeable guy, got a lot of experience. Obviously won the league with Leicester, managed at Chelsea, managed at Valencia, managed national teams, although he lost to Faroe Islands once, but everyone's got a bit of a bad mark on their CV. But yeah, generally I think he'll pick Fulham up and watch out for those differentials in Fulham.
I mean, the good thing for Ranieri is the fact that, I mean, going on what I've just said, there are some absolute, using your word, crap teams in that Premier League, including my own. You've got Southampton, they're a joke. Huddersfield, who kind of worry me at the fact that they have 2 games on the bounce. That concerns me as a Burnley point of view. Burnley, we're just we're just crap. Who's the other ones? Fulham themselves. You've got...
You haven't mentioned your mates up in Wales.
Oh, Cardiff, yeah. Again,
Cardiff, they came back, they beat Brighton. It was that Sol Bamba goal when he did this overhead kick, and then it hit the post, and it hit the post again, and then he scored in the 93rd minute, whatever it was, and went absolutely berserk. Took his shirt off. Yeah, it was a great goal. I was pleased for Warnock. Yeah, he took his shirt off, and the ref asked him, and he went, "No, I didn't take my shirt off." So, but good for Neil Warnock, and it's 70 now. But yeah, like you said, there's a lot of poorer teams. I think if you're going to say about relegating teams that are going to get relegated, despite the fact they've just bigged them up, Cardiff, Huddersfield, and
Burnley,
Southampton. Possibly Southampton, although...
Yeah, I mean, that's I think I keep texting my dad about us, and it's like one of those where we're just happy. Oh, Newcastle, another team. They're another one.
They picked it up now. They picked it up. Rondon. Differential. And that's another interesting thing as well. Rondon.
Yes,
the guy in midfield. Can someone remind me the midfielder they got on loan from Chelsea? Yes.
Kennedy.
Yeah.
But again, he's another one where his fantasy returns. He's produced one return this season, a single goal, which was by pure coincidence, one goal, 1 assist, I think, this year. That's it. Now, we may think, I certainly have looked at Rondon, hearing very good reports on his performance and how he's barely played any minutes for Newcastle.
Yes. Yeah.
Barely played any matches. So I think now his fitness is up. He's certainly one to monitor. However, I'll tell you somebody that I'm monitoring. It's actually Wolves' Jimenez. At 5.6, you've got, I believe, Cardiff and Huddersfield next, or vice versa. Tell you what, anybody with Jimenez, certainly starting is what I would say, because he's one of the few players from Wolves, barring the defence, but from an attacking aspect, he's the only one guaranteed to get you something. Whereas all the other points seem to be spread out across their midfield.
Got a lot of creative players, Wolves, haven't they?
Oh, they're a good team. Yeah. Like I said, I said it will be a hard game. I got the score bang on. We were lucky to draw, and Costa, Moutinho, and then in defence they're quite organised and solid as well. So there's Patricio as well. Your mate Patricio, Jay, he's been getting some good turns for you, some good points.
Yeah, so, I know. Bringing in Fabianski for him hasn't worked out so far, has it?
You say that?
Not yet.
Well, I disagree with that. Fabianski is one of those annoying goalkeepers where every single week I'm like, because I was going to bring in Fabianski, but I thought, no, I'm going to go with Matt Ryan, just ironically, just because Fabianski has got Man City. But Fabianski has actually outscored Matt Ryan because of the amount of save points.
He's a good shot stopper.
Fabianski has actually outperformed Patricio over the past 3 or 4 game weeks. So I wouldn't be...
He made an outstanding save, but then... he made this error. It cost West Ham the clean sheet. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh, the goal that Huddersfield scored. It was like he was moving like he was a toe. That goal. I know it was a.
I don't know.
His view was obscured, but
I don't know if he thought it was going wide or whatever. But he just seemed to just like forget that he was a goalkeeper for like a split second. Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He is a good shot stopper, good reflexes, and like we said, West Ham defence is a bit. They will let the chances come. So Fabianski is going to have a chance to make lots of saves. I mean, Joe Hart was doing that earlier in the season, even though there were some bad results for Burnley. He was getting, making lots of saves. So, yeah.
Any other questions, Jason, or is that pretty much the end of that?
John Chappell in chat. John, if you're still here, he says Martial is a trap. He didn't want to elaborate on that when I asked him why he thought he was a trap, but could be.
Ominous.
With anything with Jose Mourinho's United, even though Martial's playing so good, there's always that chance that he mixes it around. One bad result, he starts mixing it around. Lukaku now coming back into contention. Personally, if you ask me, I know who I would start. But Mourinho maybe wanted to build up Lukaku's confidence, might start rotating. I hope he doesn't, but who knows with Mourinho. A man in chat saying that Wan-Bissaka's also yellow flag. Going in the game with yellow flags, don't just take them with a pinch of salt. International break, phony injuries. Just keep monitoring it, see what's going on Twitter.
A lot of people, talking of Wan-Bissaka, a lot of people are saying just keep him for the whole season because he's only a 4 million playing defender and stuff. But again, I keep alluding to this. It's like, it's all well and good, but you want to be bringing in players which are actually performing well. And it's all well and good having a 4 million. I mean, what is he, 4.2? He may have dropped down 4.1.
Yeah, it is a bit. It's like you say. You were asking me why my team's underperforming and why I'm not rising up the league. It's the lack of options on the bench, and Wan-Bissaka is a trap to fall into. Whereas going back to what we said about Newcastle, some of their defenders with the fixtures they got coming forward, they'll play. They're favourable fixtures. We know Benitez knows how to set up a team defensively, so that could be another viable, bench option. Kennedy is a 5th choice midfielder. If one of your big hitters isn't playing, he could come in and get, 6 points or whatever 1 week, just to have an actual squad rather than filler. So
and Dejan in chat, and I'm inclined to agree, and I think Steve-O and yourself, Dan, would agree. Martial is the man.
Yeah.
I think Martial I think he's realised that the good football has been played at the Emirates and that his contract's running down and he's playing well for United and he can join his mates Mkhitaryan and Welbeck. I wish.
I mean, he scored in the last. I mean, he's scored in the last 6, 7 fixtures in a row, and I just can't see why people would be even asking if he's a must-have / should we be getting him. You can afford him, and it's the right move. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be, for example, I wouldn't be getting rid of Salah for Martial, but someone like our previous listener, viewer asked or said was getting rid of for Mane. Absolutely, I think getting rid of Mane or for Martial is a very good upgrade. I think for the returns that you're going to be getting. So yeah, I completely agree.
Definitely, yeah. I'm considering doing it myself. I mean, I did say about this international break, it's like a break from worrying about FPL, but then I realised that what I did the last international break, because I quite enjoy just having a break from it and watching national team. But watch out, Steve. Then I saw Brooks get an assist for Wales, and I thought, oh, hello, you got an assist for Vokes against Spain, and I was thinking, you can't really fully switch off because when you see the players playing well for their national teams, you think, hold on a minute, Eriksen's just scored twice against, I can't remember who it was. Maybe he'll start doing that for Tottenham, but then he realised that, hold on a minute, he's got a different role for Denmark. And he just, so I'm just going to watch this. I mean, I know this isn't FPL, right? I'm just going to get this off my chest. I think it's ludicrous, the Rooney testimonial, when that place could be given to an upcoming new forward. But it's good to, sorry, I've got to say it. They should have done that 2 years ago. They should have done it 2 years ago. He ended his England career with a 3-0 win against Scotland. That's not bad, is it? So, but I'm glad to see Callum Wilson getting that England team, and I hope he scores tomorrow.
Okay. Anyway, guys,
that's my rant over.
It's been a great podcast.
It's been good. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. If you're watching us on the replay, comment below, like and subscribe to our channel. Any questions for any future podcasts, please let us know. You can also follow us on Instagram, Elite FPL. And yeah, just to say, hope you enjoyed watching again. Enjoy a bit of a break from FPL. Just enjoy some football and try and relax a bit and come back to it fresh. I think we all need a little bit of a break after this game week, apart from Steve-O, who's absolutely loved it. And we look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Ah.